Lisbon, Portugal. Ever heard of it? Today I'm going to spend some time talking about this port stop and our e-bike tour of the city. So come join us. Last few weeks I've been doing videos on the different port stops that my family and I took with Norwegian this past summer. I've already talked about La Coruna, I've already talked about Vigo and the excursion we took to Bayona, and then now I'm going to tell about our port stop at Lisbon, Portugal. It was our one and only stop in Portugal, but we did an e-bike excursion there, and I want to tell you a little bit about that. So this was the first day where the weather really cooperated with us. Previous to this, our other port stops had been maybe chilly, maybe a little rainy at those port stops, but this day promised to be much nicer. Temperatures were expected to be in the 70s, around 24 degrees Celsius, and our boat was in port from 9 a.m. and had an all-aboard time of 4 p.m. So the day started with us waking up that morning as we were approaching the city, and like I've said before, we had a balcony room and opened up the curtains, stepped out of the balcony, and we were going under the bridge, approaching the city. It looks like the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And then also Christ the King statue is in the background. So we were welcomed that morning with one of the most beautiful sights that you'll ever see as we approach the city. So Lisbon is known as the City of Seven Hills due to the 7 hills surrounding the city center. It also houses the oldest bookstore in the world, the Bertrand Bookstore, and it's been open since 1732. It's also known for pastel de nata, which is a Portuguese pastry filled with custard. So our excursion for the day was an electric bike tour of the city. And we booked this tour with Get Your Guide versus going through the cruise line. And I'm not recommending that to do that normally. And we try to usually use the cruise line as our method for excursions, but sometimes it just makes sense. You can usually find the cheaper option by going with other local guides or using something like Get Your Guide. But you know, this was one of those that we were only 5 minutes or maybe 10-minute walk from the boat to where the excursion started, and it finished about 3 hours before the all-aboard time. So it was one of those things that felt pretty safe. We were staying in the city, so we decided to do that instead of using one of the NCL excursions. So the e-bike tour, it was, first of all, it was a lot of fun. It was, like I said, a 3-hour tour. My son, 16-year-old son, he especially loved it. It was very intuitive. That we had never rode electric bicycles before, but it wasn't very hard. It was pretty easy to figure out. Much like a bicycle, it just had some controls on it where you could determine how much effort that you need to put into the pedal to get up the hills or whenever you're pedaling on the straightaway. So it took, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes or so to begin to get used to how to use it. But once we got used to it, my wife and I and my son, we all had a really good time. There were about maybe 10 of us on the tour total, so with one guide, that was about right. Wasn't too many, wasn't too few. We were all able to easily hear what the guide had to say. But after a brief safety talk from the guide, we got our water, got our helmets, got started, and we had a really good day. So doing the e-bike tour, that was the right thing to do. City of 7 Hills is very steep. It's been very difficult to get around the city without some mode of transportation. So the e-bikes were a good way to go. Additionally, having a guide was really good because he was able to tell us about the history of the city, show us the highlights, and you know, when you're only in town for a short period of time, having someone to really guide you and help you to hit the highlights is a good way to use your time and money. During the tour, we saw Belém Tower, we also saw St. George's Castle, and we rode through Alfama, the oldest district in Lisbon. One of the things that the guide pointed out to us, which was really neat, was all all of the buildings with the ceramic tiles. They were everywhere. It was something that they used to decorate the buildings with, and it also helped with protection, weather protection. And obviously it's not really being used now, but there was still a lot of ceramic tiles left on many of the buildings, and some of them were just beautiful to see. Lisbon was very colorful, a lot of different colored buildings, a lot of yellows, reds, blues, so that made it beautiful to see all the different colors. Also, we saw a lot of trolleys. Well, I say a lot. We saw some trolleys on the tour, and again, so with the hills, the bridge that looks like the Golden Gate Bridge, and the trolleys, again, it just give you a real San Francisco type feel. Again, overall, I would recommend this excursion for the three of us. I think it cost us about $100. Again, we did it through Get Your Guide, and we had a really good time. It was a quick, easy access from the boat, and the time was about right. About 3 hours is what we needed. It wasn't too short, wasn't too long. Got a lot of good information and had a good time. And it was a good way to entertain the 16-year-old son that we had. So definitely recommend it. After the excursion, we had a little bit of time, to explore the city. Not a whole lot. We had a couple hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours. We were getting hungry at that point. So we did go into town, did a little bit of souvenir shopping in some of the markets, and we got a bite to eat. I forgot to mention the actual name of the excursion provider was Rent a Fun, and the excursion was called Seven Hills Half Day Lisbon Excursion on e-bike. So check it out. Again, if you're there and you're limited in time, I recommend it. This was one of those places that, again, we wish we had more time. The city was beautiful. There seemed to be a lot of things to see and do. There was, a lot of nice places to eat. Unfortunately, we didn't get to try very many. We didn't try one of the pastel de natas. I really regret that. But again, just not enough time there. So I would recommend trying to be there for a full day. If you're there on a cruise, you're just not going to get that much time. So try to enjoy it as much as you can. My overall rating for this trip would be an 8 out of a 10. I think previously, La Coruna, I think we rated it 5 out of 10. And then in Vigo, which we did an excursion to Bayona in Spain, I rated that one a 7 out of a 10. This an 8 out of a 10. It was definitely the best port stop that we had so far in our journey. So that's it for this port stop. Short and sweet. Hope it helped. My next video, I'll tell you about our fourth port stop, which was in Cadiz, Spain. And on that one, we took an NCL excursion to Seville. So again, please like and subscribe to my channel. Watch for this video and then more content to come very soon. Thanks for watching, and God bless.